two best friends tell you something that happened and all the details, everything in between. We tell you the good stuff.
And the bad. The very, very bad.
And the happy and the sad and the weird. We tell you all the things. I'm Emileigh. And this is Morgan.
Hi.
How are you?
I am wonderful. I have to tell everyone about an experience I had last night as a recording, because this is in the past. I got to go see Avatar: The Last Airbender in concert.
What?
It was a life-changing experience. They started playing and they played the opening theme from like the pilot, and tears are just streaming down my face. And I laugh and I cry and I clap and I smack my friend because I'm so excited. And
she's a smacker, guys.
I am. I smack. When I'm really excited, I find the person closest to me and I hit. You know how hard it was? I went to go see Barbie for the first time in theaters by myself. It was like within the first like week of it opening, and I was around strangers and I had to refrain from like smacking the stranger next to me when
What'd you
something
do,
made
slap
me
your
excited.
legs?
I kind of just like clenched my fists really tight and I was like, don't hit a stranger. But it was just such a cool experience. Like, if it ever comes to your city, buy the tickets. So in all honesty, I paid $75 per ticket and we were in the orchestra, like close to the front. We were only like 4 or 5 rows back. Well, we're in row G, so that's like G is the 8th letter of the alphabet. I don't fucking know. But we were really close and they play like scenes. 7. Thank you.
You're welcome. I counted on my fingers, guys.
Thank you. It's like I'm not doing that math in my head right now. But they play scenes from the show and like there's some dialogue, but all the music is live. And they have like all the different instruments and even like Asian instruments and stuff, and it was so good. It was so good. Like just like down my body, just chills. And
there's nothing better than like music that makes you feel like it, just
like every nerve in my body was alive, but in like the best way.
Oh, I love concerts. I love orchestras. I love anything. Just take me there, please.
Next time it comes to I think this is its second tour in Nashville, so next time it comes in.
Okay.
No matter what day it is. I know it was a Monday night, but you gotta come.
Yeah, I'll make it happen. I had an interesting experience this past weekend as well. We went, Lou, Cassie, and I went to a haunted house.
Yay, fun.
And we had I haven't been to a haunted house in like 8-9 years. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that my defense mechanism in a haunted house is cackling like a maniac. Like belly laughing in these people's faces. Why I'm like this, I have no idea. Lou screaming, Cassie's yelling, and I'm laughing. Like uncontrollable I have tears in my eyes from laughing so hard. And we get through, and I'm bad mouthed. Like I am talking back to these people. Like
it's your fight or flight mechanism.
It's sarcasm and laughter. What is wrong with me?
You're fighting with your words.
I would be murdered so fast if I said half the things to an actual murderer. Like, one guy yelled at my face and I went, why are you yelling?
You turned into your daughter.
I know, Jesus. Oh, it makes so much sense. But then then the worst thing happened. So we get off. We're like, that was great, whatever. We did stop for beers on the way there, so we might have been just a hair buzzed going through this thing. But
that's fine.
Whatever. It's fair. So we're obviously sober and everything. We get out. We go sit in my car. And because there's 3 of us in the car, all the doors are unlocked because Cassie had just gotten in the back seat. Tell me why one of the characters got in my car.
Don't like that at all.
Just, he got in the car and he pushed over a car seat and just like kind of halfway wiggled in and wasn't saying a word. He just kept pointing at the windows, and obviously we don't think he's pointing at the windows. We think he's pointing at something else, and we're like, what are you pointing at, dude? And eventually he got so fed up with us not understanding what the heck he's pointing at. He went, dude, why is your tent so bad? Like, the tent on my car is peeling really bad. It looks like shit. And it baffled him so bad. He felt the need to get in my car and start roasting my car. Like,
what a weirdo.
I know, he was like, what's wrong with your tent? I went, it's a $900 car. I don't give a shit about the tent. My kids are in here. It's a safe car. It's just not the prettiest. Leave it alone.
Like, I have never been so impassioned by anything to get in the car with strangers. What a fucking weird guy to think that he could push over the car seats in your car, have the audacity to sit in the back seat and be like, bro, what the fuck's wrong with your tent?
Yeah, and then he started like, I was like, I swear I have nicer vehicles at home. I just don't drive them. And like, he just kept, and he reached back and started like running his finger on the back one. I'm like, dude, okay, one, I know I can't even see out of the back window very well. But don't peel it, dude. Like, come on.
The audacity of the stranger.
I know.
Like, the thought of it, I'd be like, what are you doing in my car? Get out.
I was like, what the heck? He's in full clown costume. Like, bro, I feel
like, so I didn't run into this specifically, but I was speaking with Corey about this last year when I went with her to the haunted houses, and she said there's something about Halloween that makes people think that they can, like, ignore social boundaries.
Yeah, you're right.
For the sake of Halloween, but, like, that's still not okay. Like, you just don't get into a stranger's car with 3 women you don't know. They could have knives. You don't know. You guys could have had knives, and you guys could have stabbed him, and he would be dead. He would have no idea of knowing that.
Or he could have had a knife and just been, like, crazy.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to 100% know that he is an employee?
Yeah.
He could have just dressed up like that. Yeah. Like, people don't think about that. And I'm like, also the audacity, now that I know you're not a threat, why are you roasting my car? Like,
what is the point?
I said, dude, this is nothing. Like, listen, Callie, my Malibu, is not that ugly. It's just the tint is bad. Mm-hmm. Before we bought it, yes, somebody stole the front emblem off the front of the car, but it just makes it easier to spot in a crowd.
That's fine.
Like, it's fine. It's not that big a deal. It's a safe car. It's been going really well. And you know what? If the kids mess it up a little bit, it really, like, doesn't hurt as bad, because my kids do be wild and snacks end up everywhere. It's like, we're waiting a little bit to get a nicer car, and we don't want a car payment right now. So, like, we're not worried about it. Chill. Yeah, the tent's ugly, but I was like, taken aback a little bit. I was like, don't you talk about Callie like that?
Audacity of a stranger.
Yeah, I know. And then I was like, why are you okay? Go on. He did eventually. It took him like 10 minutes to get out of my car.
Mm-hmm. Oof, that just like makes me super mad. Probably a little bit more angry than you were. I'm just like so mad on your behalf. Like, why would I don't like just a stranger danger.
Cassie cracked me up because he pushed over that car seat pretty much onto her.
Yeah.
And she went, bruh, kids sit here. Have some respect. Like, she ain't scared to say shit, and I love her so much. I love you, Cassie. Oh, my God. And Lou was like, yeah, what are you doing in here?
Well, I'm sorry that strange men just feel like they can go up to you and, like, invade your personal space. And comment on your body constantly.
Yeah, I haven't had one get in my car yet, so that was a first one. I was like, what do I do in this situation? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, well, let's get into something better than that.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ub and Walt are sitting around the phone waiting for it to ring.
Hello? What do you mean you're not paying? No, I gave you the cartoons and you need to pay. I'll get my legal team. Of course I have one. He isn't paying.
It would seem that way.
What are we going to do?
Not sure, but it looks like Laugh-O-Gram is going bankrupt.
Shit.
And though the fate of this company wasn't looking good, the futures of these two men were just beginning to get a little brighter. Would you like some of that ad-lib?
You need to add like a
Sparkle, sparkle.
when you wish upon. I'm just kidding.
We will get sued out our house. I'm not gonna lie, guys, if you haven't figured out, we're talking about Walt Disney today. We are gonna get into a little bit of like kind of after he passed away and the kind of fate of the Disney Corporation. But my God, that would be like a 15-parter if I went really head deep into that. So really we're focusing on Walt himself.
Okay.
I did, before I started, because everyone knows the Disney Corporation, I was Googling things like, are you allowed to talk about Walt Disney on podcasts? Are there private podcasts that aren't owned by Disney that talk about Disney? And I was like, okay, there's enough things out there where I feel like we're saying.
So there is, speaking of that, this is just a plug. This is not a sponsor at all, but there is a YouTube channel I watch called Defunct Land.
Yeah.
It's a great YouTube channel. If you're really into, he doesn't just focus on Disney, but he talks a lot about Disney and like old defunct rides. He also talks about like old TV shows that are no longer airing, like our like kids shows that aired when we were young.
Yeah.
And he has a wonderful documentary series on Jim Henson. But he also talks about Disney a lot. And I feel like if they were that strict, he wouldn't have a YouTube channel.
Okay,
So
I feel
I
good
think you're
about
okay.
that. I think as long as I don't use any of their like music or production or anything like that, we're gonna be okay.
I think so too. So only like music wise, just like copyright free, like public use.
Yeah. And there is a reason that I made the skit. Nothing to do with any of his really productions. I was like, I'm not going to have to plug anything.
Yes. Makes sense.
Disney would squash us like an ant.
Oh, yeah. So, we have no legal representation.
No, we are the legal representation.
And we are ill-equipped.
We are. But Your Honor, they weren't equipped. It's in the name. The judge would probably be like, just don't do it again, ladies. Okay, please.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it down.
That's so funny.
All
right.
You know, let's get into it. It's gonna be a roller coaster. Pun intended. But before we get to Disneyland and Disney World, let's get into his young life.
Okay.
He was born in Chicago, Illinois, on December the 5th of 1901. He was the son of Elias Disney, who was carpenter, farmer, building contractor. He kind of had his father had a lot of failed businesses. They ended up moving around every handful of years. And it was something that his father never really kind of got out of that habit if he would fail a business, move the family, fail a business, move the family. Yep. So his mother was Flora Call Disney, and she was a school teacher. Walt was one of 5 children and four boys and 1 girl. So could you imagine having 4 brothers?
I can imagine having one brother.
That's true. I couldn't imagine having a sister. So, you know, at least a legitimate one. I have a like gaggle of sisters now, but
yeah,
not one like a gaggle.
We're a gobble of sisters.
We're not a murder of sisters. We do like shiny things. We're like crows. I get distracted by shiny things too. So, so between the ages of like 4 and 10-ish, he was raised on a farm near Mursaline, Missouri. I think that's how you say that. And this is where, around the age of 7, he really started an interest in drawing and sketching. And he was even selling some of his work to neighbors and townsfolk.
All right.
They then moved to Kansas City after a few years. It's kind of hard to keep up with his lifetime here. Mm-hmm. So after a couple of years, they moved to Kansas City, where his father ran the newspaper route and made all of his sons help with it. So Walt would later say that a lot of his habits came from his father and how they were all made to work very hard. And the disciplines and discomforts that his father kind of like, I know it's not the best thing, really made him into a hard worker. And we'll see that throughout the rest of his life. He really never stops working. Mm-hmm. So, in 1917, at the age of 16 years old, the family moves back to Chicago, where he attended McKinley High School. He took drawing and photography classes. He contributed to the school newspaper. And he was also attending the Academy of Fine Arts, kind of in the evenings. And his goal was to be a newspaper cartoonist. But a tiny little thing happened in 1918. Morgan.
Mm-hmm. World War I.
World War I. Always. Damn it. It just comes back around, doesn't it? So, in the fall of 1918, he enlisted for military service, but was rejected because he was still just like 16 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So instead, Walt joined the Red Cross and was sent overseas. And he spent a year driving an ambulance and chauffeuring Red Cross officials. And they said that his ambulance wasn't covered in like the typical camouflage that one would be. Mm-hmm. It was covered in drawings of cartoons.
Oh.
He doodled on his ambulance. Which, I mean, what are they going to say? He's probably doing a good job.
Yeah.
You doodle away, dude. So, after the war, Walt returned to Kansas City, and he began his career as an advertising cartoonist, where he met and befriended a man named Ub Iwerks, who was also a cartoonist. Walt was not afraid to say that, other people were better than him at, design work and artistry and stuff like that, but he had that creative mind. So together, they would go and create Laugh-O-Grams Incorporated. And they attempted this business in 1920 and were very quickly unsuccessful. And this is because a New York distributor stiffed the payment to these producers.
Which sucks.
It sucks. And Disney and Iwerks were forced to file for bankruptcy in 1923. So just a couple of years later. They did work really well together because Iwerks was phenomenal, fast, flexible, and Disney was really creative and was really good at salesmanship. So after their business flopped, they were like, we're going to try again. So in August of 1923, Walt Disney left Kansas City and went to Hollywood. Hollywood. And he literally didn't have shit. He had a few drawings, $40 in his pocket, and a completed animated and live action film. And these films are called Alice comedies. So he went to California because Roy Disney, his brother, was already in California for his health. And Roy sold vacuum cleaners when Walt came to town. And through some hard work, for a couple of months, Walt went around and was like, I have these animated things, pick me up, basically, to these distributors. Like, you know, I got what it takes, pick me up. And nobody was really listening. And Roy was like, buddy, you're going to have to get a real job. Like, come on, you're going to have to get a real job. And previously, while he was in Kansas City, Walt had sent some reels to a lady named Margaret J. Winkler. She was better known as MJ Winkler. So MJ Winkler he got back in touch with her again, and she was like, you know what? I like what you're doing here. Give me some cartoons. So Roy was like, you sure you want to do this? Trying to be the voice of reason. He was eventually convinced. They pulled their resources together and bought and constructed the camera stand in their uncle's garage and began their production company called the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. And it was in the back of a Hollywood real estate company. I mean, teeny tiny. They built the camera in the garage, moved it to a back room in a real estate company.
That's so when you think about what Disney is now.
Yeah.
The mega corporation doesn't even do it justice.
No.
And it just started in a back room with a little camera.
Yeah. Yeah. And one brother very hesitant about the entire thing. Mm-hmm. So they started their company. We're going to take a little pause on here and talk about his personal life just for a second. I didn't know really exactly where else to put this. So
yeah,
we're going to fast forward a couple of years. On July 13th of 1925, Walt ended up marrying one of his first employees, Lillian Bounds, in Lewiston, Idaho. And they stayed married their whole life.
Aww.
And Roy and his longtime sweetheart Edna married pretty much at the same time.
Aww.
Which is really cute. And so they would end up having 2 daughters. Walt was said to have wanted 10 kids, and he was going to spoil them all rotten. But they had some issues, and they ended up having 2 daughters, Diane and Sharon, I believe it was. So just know that all that's happening in the background of all of this. So this next part is big break and big downfall. So Winkler, this first tiny section is Winkler is awesome. So they received their first order from MJ for the Alice comedies. Just a little bit about Winkler. She was the first female film distributor, and she marketed herself as MJ so people wouldn't look at her name and be like, oh, that's a woman.
Oh.
Uh-huh. She was the one that put Felix the cat on the map.
Holy shit.
Yeah. She was huge. So Walt, like I said, had corresponded, and in July of 1923, they got together, and Winkler was like, look, everybody loves the little girl that you had already filmed. I want her. So the girl's real name was Virginia. He got in contact with Virginia's parents, and they moved to Hollywood to star in these films from Kansas City.
That's crazy. Wow.
Crazy. Because she was just so popular. And what's really cool about this is that during this time of like him working in the ad industry and doing things on his own during this time, he really kind of mastered putting like live action with these silly little cartoons and in a short kind of a way. And I'm not sure if no one else was doing this, but it was kind of rare for someone to do this. It was like a live action girl and like these cute little cartoons. So, of course, Disney contacted iWorks and was like, bruh, I need you to come to Hollywood. iWorks was like, hell yeah, be right there. So he came over in 1924. And Ub was responsible for pretty much doing all the animations, while Walt was kind of, they just went back in their flow. He was the imagination and stuff like that. But someone in one of the documentaries I watched was the difference between Laugh-O-Gram and the Disney Brothers studio was Roy. Yeah. He added structure to this entire thing. So eventually they were able to grow the business enough that allowed Walt and Roy and Oob to get an actual studio for themselves, and they purchased the studio on Hyperion Avenue in California. I think it's in Hollywood exactly, but so when I talk about the Hyperion location, that's the one we're talking about. When they moved to this location, this was where they switched from the Disney Brothers studio to the Walt Disney Studios.
Okay. Did they explain why it was Walt specifically?
Because Walt said it was his ideas.
Oh, okay.
Apparently Walt just went up and was like, it's my name now. I don't know.
Okay.
Listen, Roy does stay the entire time.
Yeah.
So he, I don't know if there were hard feelings or anything, but there was a name change. My next little section is poor choice in men, and that's just my personal preference, but personal opinion. In
your personal preference is poor choices in men.
No, Nick's a great guy. So that's my opinion. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Sorry, guys. So in November of 1923, M.J. Winkler married a man named Charles Mintz. And they had met during both of their times working at Warner Brothers Studios. She was straight up the secretary of like Warner Brothers, and then just was like, I could be my own distributor, and just did.
That's amazing. I love her.
I know. She's such a badass. So her new husband was brought into the Winklers production company as a business partner, and the moment she popped out a kid, took over the entire operation.
I hate that.
Yeah. Yep. So under his rule, and I'm saying rule, he demanded lower budgets, but was like increasing the work for Disney, Walt Disney Studios. And Mintz heard that Universal was wanting to get back into the cartoon game, and he told Walt that they needed a cartoon for that. So Mintz signed the deal with Universal's vice president on March the 4th, and Winkler would produce 27 Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoons throughout the 1927 and 1928 season. So, on September 5th of 1927, Walt's new fully animated short series, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, debuted to the public in the short film called Trolley Troubles. And this was where we're starting to see very little involvement from MJ because she was a big proponent of like everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's really sad that she got kind of like her company got pulled out from under her. And this first Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was credited for pioneering the quote personality animation, where cartoon characters actually display identifiable emotions, where it's not just like a mindless lion, blah, blah, blah. Like this character has some depth to it. And in Oswald's case, he was very like haughty and feisty, overzealous is what one put it. And then he would, go on misadventures and then push the rabbit's luck, but he always ended out on top.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So the next mini section is betrayal.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. So, unfortunately, Walt was on a trip to New York to renew his contract for Oswald when he figured out that Oswald was owned by Universal, not him, because of the way the contract was written. And during this time, we're going to see this happen again and again. Walt was not really paying attention to what was happening under his own roof. He was kind of doing whatever he wants. He's living his loosey-goosey life. I think a lot of times, and this is just me looking into this, obviously from surface level as much as I can. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like he always had like a tight grip on the realities of running a business and what that would entail.
He was the idea guy. He just generated ideas.
Yeah, he was like, we're a family, and he did. He did a lot of good things. We'll see that later. I know I just keep saying we'll see it later, but mm-hmm. he had a lot of good ideas, and he, in his heart of hearts, felt like all of these people are in the trenches with him. We're a family, but at the same time, some of the animators weren't getting paid on time, and they were working long hours, like almost sleeping at the studio, and we're just having a really hard time. And Walt was just very oblivious to a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And during this trip, not only did he find out that Oswald didn't belong to him, he also found out that Mintz, Mr. Steal Your Company, poached the majority of his animators.
Oh, no.
And was like, we don't need you anymore. I own Oswald. I have your animators. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, he got betrayed. He was absolutely devastated. He broke things off with Winkler Pictures, and then that led Walt, Roy, of course, iWorks, and then maybe just a handful of, like, Disney loyalists.
Yeah.
To start fresh again. I mean, they didn't have to shut down the company, but they were like, we're on the fringes of losing everything.
Oh, that's such a shitty thing. Like,
such a shitty thing.
Ugh.
You want to know what's even shittier? In 1931, this has nothing to do with Walt. I just wanted to round out this. I don't like this Mintz guy. In 1931, Winkler Pictures moved its office to a different location, Northwestern Avenue in LA, and renamed it the Charles Mintz Studio. Took her off of it completely.
What a dick.
And then Columbia Pictures acquired the studio shortly before Mintz's death. So, it doesn't even exist anymore.
I hope she got all his money when he died.
I feel like in my heart of hearts, Winkler Pictures would probably still be up and running if she controlled it. It would be like Like almost like Disney.
At least it would have been longer running.
Yeah. I don't feel like he ran. I don't know. I don't want to project.
Well, when you're like double crossing people that you have business and contracts with, yeah.
That was like one of his contracts. Who knows how many times he did that to people. Awful. So I will say, I don't talk about this later, but Disney has since reacquired rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So they got him back.
There we go.
Yeah, it came back around. I think it was like 2009 or 2010 they finally got him back. Like, almost 100 years later. It's fine. But, so, Walt, Iwerks, Roy, and the crew were like, what the fuck do we do now? Mm-hmm. Enter the mouse.
The mouse.
The mouse.
Everyone knows what you mean when you mean the mouse.
The mouse. My son asked me earlier how to spell mouse, and I was very distracted, and I literally, in my head, I went, M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E. Like, I sang the second half out loud. I was like, shit, the chokehold that Mickey has on all of us. So they kind of, the way the documentary explained it was really cool, but they were like, okay, we know he's going to want like this shaped body, and like we could put his head like this, and if we do ears like this, oh, he looks like a cat. But if we do ears like this, oh, he looks like a rabbit. Oh, but what if we do ears like this, and like we elongate his nose, because there's already a rabbit. We don't want a rabbit. Bad news with rabbits. There's already a lot of cats out there. So, ooh, what if we did a mouse? And like the mouse really stuck, because it was like the little mouse in this big industry trying to like come up, and the symbolism fit.
Yeah.
So Walt during this time spent a lot of time at the movie theater looking at other people's cartoons to be like, how can we make this better? Mm-hmm. So in 1928, Mickey Mouse was created. And they were going to name him something ridiculous like Mortimer. Gustavo or something.
Mortimer was an original name.
Okay, thank you. It was Mortimer. Lillian was like, it was Walt's wife, Lillian, was like, that is a shit-ass name. Let's name him Mickey. So they named him Lillian.
Mickey's a lot better. It's so funny because there is a character named Mortimer. I think he's like Mortimer Mouse or Mortimer Rat, but he's like a permanent antagonist to Mickey, like in cartoons.
I love that. But there was only one teeny tiny little problem. They could not, for the freaking life of them, find a distributor who would take a chance on this mouse. So it was first supposed to air as a silent cartoon entitled Plane Crazy. Mm-hmm. Plane as in airplane, so Plane Crazy. And that was actually never released. Because during this time, while they're making these films, The Jazz Singer, which was a motion picture with Al Jolson in it, was like what brought sound to the movies. And Walt was like, forget the silent thing. This is how we make our mouse different. It's like, let's be the first like cartoon to bring this kind of sound into our picture. So they like really quickly filmed, because they had filmed two, I forgot what the second one was called, but they filmed the third one. And finally at the Colony Theater in New York, they were able to secure like the opening slot, like before the actual feature film, the opening slot for 2 weeks. That's all they had. And Mickey Mouse entered the big screen in Steamboat Willie. And I do have links in the show notes if you just want to pop over there and look at they're on YouTube, so I know
Yeah.
they're not going to like yell at me for that. But it was the world's first fully synchronized sound cartoon. And it aired November 18th of 1928. And if you open that up, notice it says like Steamboat Willie, and then under it says a sound cartoon. It was like distinct right there. It was really cool. And the audience loved it so much that a lot of times they would ask it to be played again and delay the feature film. Like, can you play Steamboat Willie one more time? Because people loved it. Like, there were some sounds in older cartoons.
They had music and stuff.
Yeah, they had music and stuff, but they never had, like, the sound of the steam horns or, I mean, it's
a character
all
whistling with, like, its lips moving as it whistles.
Yeah, and even saying words at this point. Like, cartoons didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So within months, Mickey Mouse was popular, like with a capital P. And especially during the Depression, because of just kind of who he was, it was another one of those emotional characters that, like, he was scrappy. Mickey Mouse was getting into some shit, and he always came out on top, and he always got his girl, Miss Minnie Mouse. So Mickey Mouse Club started popping up everywhere, and a guy named Kay Kamen was hired on. He's a really big person in the, like, merchandising industry. Google him. We don't have time for it. He got the rights to, like, license Mickey and Minnie, and shit just started. You could get watches and cups and ties and lunch boxes and all this other stuff. They said the watch was the most popular one. And by the 1930s, you could just buy whatever you wanted with Mickey's face on it. And fan mail even started coming in, and it was so cute. Some of it was like addressed to Walt himself, and some of it was addressed to, like, Mickey and Minnie, and then, you know, later Goofy and Donald Duck. And it was, and one of them was like, I'm gonna be a cartoonist when I grow up.
Oh, that's so cool.
Why is this gonna make me cry? So let's put this into perspective right now. Walt Disney wasn't even 30 years old yet.
Holy shit.
Yep.
He was only, what, 27 at the most?
Let's see, when Mickey came out.
Because he was born in 1901.
Yeah. 27. Wow. So, Walt actually claimed that Mickey Mouse was his alter ego, and he would go on and voice Mickey Mouse himself until 1947. So when you hear Mickey Mouse, it's Walt Disney.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really weird to see a video of just, like, Walt Disney and then Mickey Mouse's voice comes out of his mouth. It's like kind of strange. So, Depression. That's the next title. Sorry, guys.
Like the Great Depression?
Not yet.
The most depression.
Nah. It's depression with a lowercase d.
Oh, okay.
So, Walt was working very, very hard, and he still wanted to have a big family. He literally would stay at the office until, like, 1 or 2 in the morning. Chain smoking, of course, because everybody did back then.
Yeah.
But he had the final word on every inch of film that left his studio. And you know what? It's got his name on it. So,
yeah, I have heard that he was, like, a massive control freak.
Yeah.
When it came to
absolutely. He
production.
Was. Do I think that Disney could have been what it is without him being a control freak? I really don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So. It definitely made, I don't know. Like, and I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
Like, you know more about it than I do with what you've seen, but
I will talk about, we'll see some examples of the differences of him being a control freak and not being a control freak.
Yeah.
Both examples, wildly successful. So,
yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe just like, especially starting out, like his demand of the highest quality helped him create that reputation.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like the actual animators, because he was not animating his own works. He had hired animators, and that was where stress came in.
Yeah. It gets, we're going to see all sorts of sides of Walt. He is such a complex character.
Complex is a good word for it.
Yeah. Well, it's like you see, we're about to talk about a little bit of his personal life along with, you know, work life. It's just, they're vastly different. Yeah. So, Lillian became pregnant, and unfortunately, trigger warning, guys, she did lose that first child of theirs. It destroyed Walt. I mean, he literally found out she was pregnant, started looking at other houses to like accommodate a new baby coming in immediately. Was just like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then they lost it, and it was horrendous. Also, I forgot to add that him and his brother built houses next to each other.
Oh, can you imagine living right next door to your brother?
I'd be fine with that.
I need distance from my sisters. I love my sisters.
You know who I don't need distance from? You. Could you move over here?
Yeah.
I got woods. I'm telling you, we've already talked about it. You could put a tiny house back there. It'll be fine.
That's true.
Yeah. We'll hook it up to the water, and we can have coffee together in the mornings.
That'd be so good.
I'll foam your milk every day.
That sounds like an innuendo.
You're going to have to keep Kyle for that kind of foaming. Okay. Back to Walt. Before we just start talking about milk foaming. Anywho, so he had this huge mental breakdown. And his doctor was like, bruh, 1, you're working too hard.
Yeah.
2, you're obviously going through some shit right now. So his doctor was like, go on a damn vacation. Just go. And he did. So he went on, I forgot how long. I think it was like 10 days. That's all he could like make himself go for. And they went on like a little like peruse, like they did a good ass vacation.
Okay, good.
And it made him realize that like there is more to life than working. And when he came back, he felt rejuvenated and re-energized and just like ready to take on the world. And this is when he started making the silly symphonies.
I remember even watching some of those as a kid.
Yeah. They're super cute. And they're things like the skeleton dance, which is my daughter's favorite thing on this planet. Somebody has taken the skeleton dance cartoon and put it over the sound of spooky, scary skeletons. Mm-hmm. And she just like jams. Halloween's like her thing. So this came with like good and bad things. We're seeing not only ups and downs in just kind of him, but like his financial situation.
Yeah.
He kind of used up all the money from Mickey Mouse to make the silly symphonies because he started using Technicolor, which was very new, very expensive.
Yeah.
And using sound on top of Technicolor in these reels were like, make
very
it rain.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah. So they also did one called Flowers and Trees, which actually got him the first of his 32 personal Academy Awards. Only 32.
Now I'm looking up who has the most Academy Awards, like personal Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Because that's so many.
So many. 32 just personal.
Walt Disney.
Yep.
22 wins from 59 nominations. So I guess like some, like with other things going on, like
maybe
39 total.
Yeah, it might be like 32, like 22 of them were from his lifetime, and then the way he passed at the end, he actually had planned a bunch of stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how it works, but Mickey and Minnie were still very popular, and the public wanted more of these like humanoid creatures. Like, this wasn't really like, yeah, well, they had Felix Cat and like Oswald and things like that, but the Mickey and Minnie were different.
They're anthropomorphic, like more human-esque.
Yes. So this led to the invention of other animal characters like Donald Duck, Pluto, Goofy. I'm not going to sit here and name them all. Y'all know them. So, along with other animals that weren't on the same like vibe, like the tortoise and the hare, grasshopper and the ants, things of that nature. So the film Flower and Trees like blew everyone's mind because of just like the color in it. But again, he's using up all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though they're using up all the money, they decided they needed more employees because all these more complicated films need a more complicated staff, of course. So the Hyperion location grew to nearly 200 employees.
Oh, wow.
Can't sit still today, guys. So if you hear me wrestling, so sorry. So, of course, like everywhere in the industry, really in almost any industry, men ruled the studios.
Of course.
Women were, put at like the painting jobs where they would get the like tiles or whatever they are.
The cells.
And the cells. Thank you. The cells. And they would have to like hand paint in the things.
Yeah. So like fine detail and like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that was a conception that people had back then, is that women were more suited to finer detail work. Like men are just so clunky with their giant man hands, they cannot have like good detail. And women had tiny dainty hands, so they could paint like detail in the in-between frames and stuff like that.
Even though it's the men that are drawing the fucking animations.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't even make sense. So there was like a lot of like, even though, okay, so this is still during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Most people weren't complaining because they had a steady job, because Walt Disney was actually, compared to the rest of the world, was making money.
Yeah.
And I know I said he was having a hard time with money, but like comparatively, he's making money. He can pay his employees.
Right.
So the way the atmosphere in this location was crazy. Like, the employees would play volleyball during their lunch break, and Walt would like not only insist everybody in his office call him Walt. That's it. You don't get no boss, no yes sir. It's Walt, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
He was very jovial, informal. He would go and watch them play volleyball and be like, "Don't break your hands. You need those." And he had art classes, brought out professionals from all over, was like letting the artists make mistakes in a time period where like these kinds of things, you're not allowed to make mistakes. He was letting his employees experiment and be free and be creative. And also at the same time, his daughter Diane was born. So this is a really good like time for him. And then later on, they would adopt their daughter, Sharon. So they had like, he was vibing.
Yeah.
They were barely making ends meet, but he was vibing. And, you know, was he done? Was this fine? No. No, he was on to bigger and longer things. So in 1934, I need you to imagine this, Morgan. Walt, you're working in the production studio with Walt Disney, and he sends you on an early dinner. The entire staff go on an early dinner, but I need you back here by, say, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock for a company-wide meeting. And you show up, and you sit in the chair in the auditorium little area, and you wait for the meeting to start. And Walt Disney saunters onto the stage and does an entire one-man production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He plays all the characters by himself, the entire thing. And then at the end, he's like, you got that? Because we're gonna make that.
Wow.
Yeah. Roy was like, what the fuck? And the rest of the, like, they said that the animators were like pumped. They're like, this is gonna be awesome because this has never been done before. A full-length feature film? Completely animated? What? So Roy was like panicking, and the rest of everyone else was like, woo!
He's like, the logistics.
Where's the money coming from? Oh my God. We're barely staying afloat as it is. What the fuck?
Gonna put thousands of dollars into animating, like, well, how long is it? Like 90 minutes?
Something like that. I think it is about 90 minutes.
I'm Googling.
Yeah, Walt's like, this is gonna be great. Roy's like, please no, Walt, what the fuck?
Let's see if this works. Because I know there's a new movie coming out, so I put OG Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
While you're looking that up, it would like end up costing them $2 million.
Yeah. It's 83 minutes, so it's almost
83 minutes.
Almost 90, yeah.
Almost 90. Okay, so everyone's pumped. It's I almost said 1984. Oh my God. 1934. Roy's panicking. Crew's excited. Eventually, because I guess Roy's a sucker for his baby brother, he goes and he's like, fine, I'll go ask Bank of America if they can give us some fucking money. And originally they did not give them like $2 million. It was said that they had to like up the budget like sixfold or whatever.
Wow.
It was so much money. But Bank of America was like, sure, you're going to have to stay on time, though. We're very nervous.
Yeah.
This.
Understandable.
Like, what the fuck? So production starts. And the whole reason he wanted to do this was because he knows he can make people laugh with his shorts. That's the slapstick humor. He knows it. Like, easy. Done it. Been there, done that. He wants to make, respectfully, he wants to make people cry. He wants people to feel the emotions as if this was real life. So he started actively engaging in all, like, phases of the production. So whereas before he was more, he would review it, and yeah, he would draw a few things here and there, and he like pretty much just couldn't deep dive into everything. He just oversaw the whole thing, if that makes sense. So he hired live dancers and actors, brought in live animals, and let the animators study things like how the dresses moved when a dancer would move a certain way, or your face when you are upset, or how your mouth would move, or things of that nature. And he wanted his animators to take acting classes so he could they could feel the way their body's moving and things like that. There were no rules. They were just like, do whatever. I need your creative genius on these. Sometimes it would take an entire day just to do like a close-up of Snow White. A whole day. And that's because someone has to make the main parts, the main animation parts. Someone has to get the in-between scenes. Someone has to add the color. And total, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is 200,000 separate drawings. Squished together to make that.
And each is like, it's so crazy to me to think about what animation used to be, because you'd create detailed paintings one by one, take a picture of it, and then flip book them together. And that's animation.
Yeah. Like, one of the documentaries, it really blew my mind the way he said this. And he said, you're looking at, I think he was talking about Pinocchio, when Pinocchio was under the water. He's like, you feel like you're underwater. It looks like you're underwater. That's a piece of paper. That's just that was blank paper at one point. Someone put that image on there with their own hands. Talent. What? So, they had to rent bungalows because their employees went upwards of 600 at this location. They had to just rent houses so their employees had a place to work.
Yeah. I mean, it was because they had 200. Like, I'm sure they didn't have room for 400 more people with desks and workstations and...
Oh, yeah, because all this takes room.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get just like a teeny tiny little... Like, you need room to
like,
do
they had
stuff.
like these huge drawing desks with all their art supplies and lamps and...
Yeah.
Just, it was... Gosh. I'm so happy animation is still a medium with how hard it is.
Yeah. With, to have a time machine, to just be a fly on the wall and feel that creative energy in those rooms. Like, I love it. So, obviously this is going to take a couple years. The premiere date was December 21st of 1937. 10 months prior to this date, not a single damn thing had been put on a reel. People were getting a little nervous.
Yeah.
And this is like, Roy has like raised the budget 6 times over. People are starting to call Snow White Disney's folly. People are working 12-hour shifts just to get this stuff done. One guy said that, like, the painters, like, were starting to, like, lose their eyesight. I need to step away from this.
Wow.
Like, I can't see. I just need to, like, walk away to, like, let my eyes adjust. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Animators finished in early November. The last cells were painted November 27th. Remember, that's only a month before the premiere date. People didn't know they were going to make it. Like, are they going to make it? And by golly, on December 21st of 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs premiered.
Wow.
He didn't know if it was going to work. He was like, what if we just did all this work for the past
3 years?
3 years. What if we just did this work for the past 3 years? And it's shit. What if nobody likes it? Apparently he sat and held his wife's hand the entire time. It was just like death grip.
Like during the premiere?
Yes.
Aww.
I know. People gasped at the opening scene. They never seen anything like that before. The bright colors, the castle, everything.
Everything's so painterly in that movie too. Like, it looks like watercolor brought to life.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And just like everything about it and the different aspects and the Seven Dwarfs and how she looks like very like a person. And the dwarves look like these caricatures of people. And we've got the drama of like her dying, and then, you know, so it was said that they laughed when they were supposed to laugh. They hated the queen. And then the peak, they cried when Snow White died. And then they stood and applauded when she woke back up. Like, standing ovation. Snow White took the world by storm. It played for 5 straight weeks, grossed $8 million in its first year, and they paid off the $2 million debt to the Bank of America in its first run.
Wow.
With money left over. So, okay, we're at a high.
Mm-hmm.
So, here we go. Roller coaster loop-de-doos. Mm-hmm. Roy and Walt had not seen their parents, but, you know, sporadically over the last few years. It's not like you can just, you know, FaceTime your parents at this time. So, they bought Elias and Flora a house in LA and moved them out there. Unfortunately, within the year, there was something wrong with the furnace. And that in the house that Roy and Walt had bought them, and their parents had an accident with carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh, no.
His father survived, but it did kill his mother.
Oh, and how tragic.
It's like the guilt. It's like, I bought you this house and it killed you. Like the guilt that you would feel.
And I doubt they had detectors at that point.
No,
you know, like
probably not.
And you would never know. Like, that's not his fault at all. But that's so sad.
They said he attended the funeral and then never spoke about her death again. Which he couldn't. He just never spoke about it.
Oh my goodness. That is so sad.
Yeah. So, you know, roller coaster. Real high, real low.
Yeah, seriously.
So, we're seeing some changes in the company at this point. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs wasn't even really a part of the Academy Awards in 1938. A lot of people in the industry didn't see it as like a serious profession, like cartoonists. And I mean, this is like really like it's the beginning of a new era. It had never been done before. People in Hollywood, not the people watching the movies, but people in that's not a movie. It's a cartoon, just a really long cartoon. He basically got like an honorable mention that year, and which of course really like probably pissed him off. He's like, yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, seriously. Like with all the work that went into it, it's not just a cartoon.
Yeah, it's not. So he said, we're making a new standard. We're trying to get away from the slapstick, the funny, whatever. We're here to make art, not cartoons anymore. So let's raise that bar. He wants people to feel. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you need more room.
Yep. Because
they can't keep renting the bungalows.
Yeah.
And he would also have, like, he had 3 feature films going on at the same time. So, wow. Yeah. At this point, he had, it was like, after this, I think it was Fantasia, Bambi, and Pinocchio.
Do you want to know, like, just think about it, like, we had those on VHS, like, as a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, we were straight up just, like, watching movies, like, more than 50 years before we were born.
Yeah.
And, like, we loved them.
Yeah.
Like, that's so crazy to me.
Okay, so you know how Lady and the Tramp came out in, what, the 50s?
I think so, yeah.
It was based in, like, 1900, right?
Yeah.
When we were watching Lady and the Tramp, it was the same time difference as to when it came out. You're welcome for that. I came about that knowledge on my own.
Oh, no. Thank you. Time.
Yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? And you know what I think is insane is that not only were we watching movies in the 90s that had come out in the late 30s, early 40s, we were legitimately enjoying ourselves.
Yeah.
They were amazing. Like Cinderella still has a chokehold on all of us.
Yeah.
And
like, I was so scared of the movie Snow White. Like, I loved the entire movie up until, like, the witch becomes, like, the old hag. And I was like, I can't watch it anymore. And I would, like, fast forward through the scary part so I could get to the happy ending.
Yes. Bambi has traumatized everyone from, like, boomer to at
now.
least solid millennial. Yeah. I mean, still out there traumatizing people. It's insane that he made timeless movies and they were his experiments.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So right after Snow White, he was like, we need more room, obviously. So without asking Roy, he just went and bought some land in Burbank.
Well,
Roy was in England at the time.
He's like, I don't need you. I got this.
Yeah. So in 1940, the construction was completed on Disney's Burbank studio. It staffed more than 1,000 artists, animators, storymen, technicians, everyone. Each animator had their own room with like a rug and a lamp and a lounge chair, and like they had restaurants, gas stations.
Wow.
I think apartments was mentioned. I don't know if it ever came to fruition, but I think he wanted to at least. Gym with personal trainers, tennis, like table tennis, and all the things, right? It's basically the Google of the 40s.
Yeah.
Right? So they got to work. And they went for Pinocchio. Pinocchio was interesting because they picked this old, like, folk tale. Mm-hmm. And then this is the first time where they take an old folk tale and then just kind of rewrite it. They're like, we're going to keep the name. But apparently in the folk tale, Pinocchio was kind of a nasty person.
Yeah, he was a dick.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it before. There's a Myths and Legends podcast I listen to, and he talked about the origins of Pinocchio, and he was an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is when they're starting to turn things into like the Disney image.
Yeah.
Where it's about growth and becoming, a person and like
a likable main, like, protagonist.
Right. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but like coming of age, becoming a real boy,
someone you're rooting for.
Right. So Pinocchio cost twice as much as Snow White. And thanks to the war, the sales were not near as good.
Yeah.
People loved Pinocchio. They couldn't go see. All of Europe could not see Pinocchio.
Yeah, there was the Second Great War. Things were a little bit more pressing.
Right.
Also, that movie also scared me, like Monstro. I couldn't watch Pinocchio for a while. Like, I would always stop it before I got to Monstro because it scared me so much as a kid.
Yeah. Him turning into a donkey was really freaking me out, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like that. So, not only now was Pinocchio not making money, they were in debt because of the brand new studios they just built. Roy was like, let's go public. And Walt was like, I don't really want to, but I don't see any other choice. Mm-hmm. So in...
Like public shares or... Okay.
My legs are not cooperating today. So they ended up releasing like 155,000 shares, and they were able to get $4 million. Y'all can do the math on that. So Fantasia lost even more money because I love Fantasia.
Yes.
It's weird as fuck.
Yes. There are some things that are like straight up trippy.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it as a kid. My parents were like, "Are you good?" Like, I loved it as a kid. And it was just weird.
Mm-hmm. And there's no story to it. It's just art to music.
Yeah, it was almost like a compilation of shorts.
You know what?
It's kind of what it feels like.
It has very similar vibes to the concert I was just at last night, where it's just like little vignettes and themes with music attached to it, except like it was kind of a reverse, where it was an established like visual medium with a live orchestra. Yeah. Right. But still, like, similar.
Yeah. It's like it has no rhyme or reason. And some people are like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And some people are like, what the fuck was that? And I think more on the what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
So within months of going public, they were already unable to pay their monthly shareholder dividends. Boy. So the issue of employee pay was also becoming an issue again. And everything was super fancy at the Disney studios, but everything was very compartmentalized and almost like sterile.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have the public, like the family feel that the Hyperion location had.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, you're an animator, you go there. Oh, and you have your own room now, so like you're isolated animating.
Yeah.
And you have your like the people that paint, the painters and the inkers and the in between scenes over here. Everyone was separated,
mm-hmm.
and there were vast pay differences. I mean, like some people getting paid $12, some people getting paid $300 a week.
Wow.
Very big pay differences. And there was even like one woman who her husband had left her during the Depression. She would skip her lunches just to save her money to feed her family, and like passed out at work. And Walt was like, well, she should have ate something. Like just completely, again, just oblivious to like
the actual human beings and what was going on. Yeah.
So it really had lost that like feel to it. And then on top of that, he's public. The entire world can see how much money he's making.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $2,000 a week.
And you have
Roy
employees
was making $1,000. Yeah.
Or
you have employees that are making $12 a week.
Let's see how much that is adjusted for inflation. Give me a second, because I'm really curious. I don't know what happened right there.
It's all right, okay.
$12. We'll say what, like 1946 ish.
Yeah. 41.
1941.
Let's say 41. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh God, what?
Let me just double check, make sure that's right. It wasn't even $300. It was $12 in 1941 is worth $257.39 today. That's like poverty level.
That's a part-time job. You're working like 12-hour shifts.
I have to do more math.
Wow.
How was I going to do that? 5 by 5. That's like $6 an hour, essentially. Oh, that's below the federal minimum wage here in the U.S.
By like $2.
Yeah.
That's so... Oh. Try to support a family on that.
Yeah. No wonder she passed out at work.
Yeah, she wasn't eating. She was malnourished. So, needless to say, he had grown too big, too fast for his britches.
Yeah.
And everyone was pissed. So they were threatening to unionize because the union was going through the industry. Even though Disney employed half of the people in the industry at the time.
Wow.
People were like, we're going to unionize.
Yeah.
And Walt wouldn't listen. He wouldn't even entertain it. So Art Babbitt, who was the creator of Goofy, who had been on his animator staff for years, was like, I'm for the union because I see these people and I care about these people.
Mm-hmm.
So in February of 1941, Walt gathered the staff and was like, hey, I hear you're trying to unionize. Gave this whole big speech, wholly out of touch. I listened to a little of it. He literally said, y'all need to figure out what's going on under your own roofs and quit whining and complaining about the conditions here, basically. Like,
wow. The audacity.
Figure yourselves out. You're the only reason you're not succeeding.
That's a lot to say for someone making poverty wages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the Screen Cartoonist Guild, who was kind of the organization getting the unions to come in, swooped in. Art Babbitt signed it. Walt fired Babbitt, and then the entire staff went on strike on May 29th of 1941.
Do you not blame them one bit?
Not the entire. About half of the employees went on strike. On my birthday. So
I didn't even catch that.
That was my birthday. So, strike started. All departments. I mean, they even had animators out there. And honestly, the animators were like living large.
Mm-hmm. But they have solidarity.
The fact that they saw what was happening was incredible. So, a month into the strike, he still would not recognize the union.
Wow.
He wouldn't even apologize to Art Babbitt.
Wow.
So, he went on to publicly blame communism, which was just a blanket blame for everything going on at the time.
Because unionization is communism. That's the same thing.
Yeah. So, he went on a 10-week trip to South America and left the issues to his brother. He just kept getting like mad. At one point, him and Art like came to blows, like literally were fighting in the street. And Roy was like, "Could you go on a vacation and
get out of here?
Handle this?" Oh my god! So we went on a 10-week trip to South America. Everyone welcomed him warmly. Everyone loved Walt Disney because at this point, Walt Disney is like a household name.
Yeah,
fucking everywhere. So Roy settled things at home. Unfortunately, his dad passed away while he was gone, and his brother was like, stay there. I mean, him and his father were not close anyway because of the way he was raised.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, I'll stay. Roy's like, please do. Mm-hmm. So the workers pretty much got everything they wanted. But when Walt got back, he said the studio never quite felt the same. He was honestly blindsided. Mm-hmm. He was like, I thought everyone was fine. And he was just out of touch.
Yeah. And I'm sure like after coming to blows with your employees, the culture is going to be a little different.
Yeah. Yep. So he didn't trust anyone. And it was said that he had a secretary, I guess during those months, look and pick out the people in the crowd that were employees and take the files and put them in a separate file. And when all this was over, the employee was like, Walt, what is this for? And he was like, this pile are the people that are true Disney people. And this pile are people who at one point did not believe in what, like, our whatever, and they won't be here for very long. So basically,
Wow.
not saying, we're going to fire everyone on the same day, but just kind of systematically
Wow.
get the people who,
That's really shitty because, like, they're literally just fighting for better workers' rights and better pay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So, obviously, we're talking about 1941. And another thing got brought to the U.S. economy during that time.
Yeah.
Known as
World War II!
Oh my God! 94% of the Disney facilities were engaged in special government work.
Wow.
During this time.
But you know what? That's a consistent income right there.
That's what kept them afloat, honestly. So they were making training, propaganda films, and the armed forces.
We're both on it. Forces.
So they also made health films, and these are kind of still shown throughout the world in the U.S. State Department. I'm like, that's kind of wild, but okay. So here's some 80-year-old videos
about your health, because people were so healthy in the 40s.
Health. Well, they probably ate less processed food, so there's
but they chain smoked like crazy.
They sure as hell did. And you know what? If you want to hear more about shit that was happening in the 40s, you can go to our medical bonus episode.
Oh yeah,
and some of that overlaps. So
yeah.
So it's fine. Anyway, so the remainder of his efforts were devoted to like other short comedy things and that were deemed essential for military morale.
Mm-hmm.
So he's limping along, doing what he can. And throughout this entire thing, it's like he's acting like everything is fine for his kids. On the outside, he's portraying this like larger than life, happy-go-lucky man. And throughout his entire career up to this point, if I haven't said it before, it's like deep down, he's got like this rage where like if you cross him, by God, you're going to feel the wrath of Walt Disney. If you were his friend, he was loyal, like warm, kind,
but
loving.
It sounds very black and white.
It does seem very black and white. Like he drove his kids to school every morning. Like how, so in the 40s, that was kind of unheard of.
Yeah, he was a very like active father.
Yeah. And it was said that his wife was kind of like aloof and not as like outgoing and energetic and stuff like that. So they were kind of switched. But he was such a hands-on father. And then it was almost weird that he would have such empathy and sympathy for people that he's close to, but then like not even see any of the problems that were going on around him in his own company.
Yeah.
But then claim that company is his family.
Yeah.
And expect loyalty like that. Like it's complicated.
Yeah, very complicated.
Yeah. So after the war, he needed a big box office hit, and he was really hoping Bambi would be it. Bambi, unfortunately, was not it. I think by the time that Bambi came out, people liked it, but it was almost like Disney was kind of blasé that I think they've just been a little, it was too soon. I think they've just been a little scorned, like the industry and people, obviously they know about things, and I don't know exactly when Bambi came out.
And Bambi, for the most part, is very saccharine, like it's a very sweet movie. I mean, it's got tragedy, of course, and the ending, like, the fire that is very scary. But
right.
it's, I don't know, it's Bambi. There's not a whole lot going for it, you know. The
Yeah.
art is beautiful. The music is amazing, but it's just not like the most compelling story either.
It also came out in 1942. We're in the throes of World War II, right? The peak, the middle, like,
Yeah.
awful. We would have 3 more years before we're done.
Right.
People are not worried about Bambi right now.
Yeah.
We're worried about the Nazis, damn it.
Yeah.
So, after the war, he needed something else. We're trying to make it. Uncle Remus is what he kind of leaned on next. And in 1945, the Three Caballeros came out, and that was combined with live action and cartoon medium.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, I love Uncle Remus. I want to get away from like the Brothers Grimm kind of vibe. Let's go into more American folky kind of vibe. And I genuinely believe he tried.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people out there that say that Walt Disney was racist, and I don't think if he did anything racist, I really don't think from the evidence that I found that if it was portrayed that way, I don't think he intended it to be that way.
I mean, we have to remember it is the 40s still.
Right.
So I know what movie you're about to talk about. I did watch it a few years ago. I found like an internet archive of it. You don't have to go to the dark web to find it, but I think it's on Internet Archive. And I did watch it, and I can understand from in the 40s how that was something that was just like the way it, not the way it was, but I understand like the viewpoint, the focal lens of the film.
Right. Right. And he did talk to the head of NAACP to kind of vet things. Mm-hmm. And we are talking about Song of the South.
Yes.
Guys. So there were a lot of things. I haven't seen it. I've seen a few little short clips. I think what really pissed off a lot of people is some were saying that it was like a kind of sugar-coated version of what slavery had been.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everyone's just so happy, and
yeah,
you have like, you literally have a plantation with like a white family and like children running past homes of enslaved people, and like, I mean, again, yeah, very sugar-coated.
Yeah, I don't think he intended it. I mean, if he wanted to be racist, he would have just been racist. He wouldn't have gone to the NAACP to be like, how do I make it not racist?
It's a very Disney-fied version of...
Yeah, and I just don't think there's a way to make that movie not.
No.
From what I can see.
No.
Also, what pissed people off was that opening night they had in Atlanta, Georgia, in which... the main character, I forgot his name, the black performer, was not allowed to be there.
Yeah, because it was Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And Atlanta, Georgia was very racist at the time.
Yeah. So Walt was shocked, and he was convinced it was the communists again out to get him.
Oh, those damn communists.
Oh.
They're the reason everything's going wrong, and not because of like...
You can't just take the criticism, dude. Like, come on. So, enter the United Productions of America, or the UPA. They were a competitor that was popping up around this time. They had a very different vibe. They had the kind of 50s vibe, kind of, we want to make cartoons and films that aren't so realistic. Like, let's make them funky. Let's make them weird.
Stylized.
Yeah, let's bring in some of the art that's happening around us. And I mean, even like Picasso was mentioned, and like they had like, the very square noses and square heads and very interesting, different. Walt called them communists too.
Of course.
And wow, almost a surprise, his former employee, Art Babbitt, was now employed by the UPA. So he was very upset about it. And a lot of his other former animators that he either got rid of or had quit now worked for the UPA. So he straight up went to Congress and started naming names, telling people that they were communists just based on like, I just feel like they are.
Ugh. And this is
no proof.
Right.
In the McCarthy era.
Yeah.
So not good.
No.
Not good.
Eventually one day we will actually talk about McCarthy because we've referenced the McCarthyism era of the US many times at this point.
It's so fucking baffling. So he ended up being part of like some organization, and that organization was able to get like a law passed that if someone was claimed to be a communist, they couldn't be hired in like that industry or something like that.
Wow.
Like ruining people's careers.
Seriously. Wow.
All at the same time. Such the juxtaposition of like, to the public eye being like a happy-go-lucky, funny, goofy, silly person. And then behind all that, such a dark, complicated, I keep saying complicated, but I don't know how else to like describe him.
It's just such like a contradiction,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a contradiction. So we're entering a bit of a new phase. He started producing different varieties of entertainment films, like true life adventures, nature-based films, Sealand, Beaver Valley, The Living Desert, things like that. So we're looking at more kind of not maybe documentary kind of like vibes. But they needed, again, a feature film, like feature-length film that would bring them once again back into life. Like it just keeps going up and down and up and down. Mm-hmm. And somehow they were able to raise $2 million to make Cinderella. But he was uncharacteristically distant. He just kept saying things like, I will never make anything as good as Snow White. And
it's hard when your magnum opus is like the first thing that you do, Yeah.
Yeah. And that was back when they had the old studio, when they had the vibe, when they had the creative juices flowing, when everyone was excited. And now you have these separated, stalls. It's almost just like a well-oiled machine that worked better when it wasn't oiled. When it was just chaos, when it just
now it's just a job,
Now it's and he's like, it's almost like he's the company, not him. I know he hasn't lost the spark, but I feel like he's lost how to translate that spark into his employees. Yeah. So now they're not excited, and it's like the whole thing just feels kind of dead. Mm-hmm. So in the fall of 1948, his doctor was like, take a break from work, please. Yeah. So they went on another vacation, and this time he took a friend, just I think it was the two of them. How adorable is this? To a train convention. Cute. And by the time, they took a train to the train convention. Of course. And it's the cutest thing. But, apparently he really talked to his friend about it and really, vibed. And by the time he got there, he was in great spirits. There was, a video of him getting off the train, and he like ran away like a child. And I was like, it is so weird to see like a 40-year-old man in a suit just like frolic.
Yeah.
But he was like so happy. And when he came back, he was obsessed with trains. Like, he built these giant trains that, like, kids could sit on and ride.
Wow.
They were so big. He would build them, like, around the studio. He was, like, obsessed. But Cinderella would be his next film. But he was still very distant because he was so fucking focused on the trains. It came out, and he was like, okay, well, I've kind of neglected this one. We'll see how this goes. Everyone loved it.
Yeah.
Roy said it would come out, like, it would make $5 million. It made $8 million.
Wow.
And he was happy to have the good reviews, happy to have the money, of course, but he didn't think it was good enough. All he saw were the flaws. Where in Snow White, he was so hands-on, he fixed all the flaws. In this one, he was like, it's really good, and I'm very proud of y'all, but, like,
it could be better.
That was a corner cut. That was a corner cut. That was a corner,
Yeah.
So he was like, great, whatever. And that was in 1950. So later we would see Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, and then other small things. The year 1950 really turned it around for him because they were again on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Again. So something wasn't right. Something wasn't enough. So he created the WED. And he basically just got like a building and like in the back of the studios or whatever, just like a small building, picked out a handful of people. And the WED stands for Walt Elias Disney. It's just his initials. He went back to basics. He got small groups, and he's like this train like thing, like it's a physical thing, like it's whimsical, it's like a thing, and he was like, I want to create amusement park. He, as a father, a very hands-on father, he used to take his kids to like zoos and carnivals and other things like that. And he always ended up just like sitting on the bench while the kids like did whatever the hell they did. And it just was like a gross, nasty, unsafe place for you to be. And he's like, there's got to be a better way. So apparently when he told his wife was like, why? Like, you want to build that kind of nasty thing? He's like, no, much better. Like,
yeah.
No, I don't want to build a carnival. I want to build Disneyland. So he wanted to take the animations, the movies. He wanted to take the world and bring it to the people and like make it people forward. He wanted the best customer service. He wanted everything to be beautiful, pristine, elegant, awesome. So by golly, he goes to Roy. And Roy's like, the fuck, bro? Like, what is this?
Long-suffering Roy with his brother's antics.
Roy's fed up. He's like, what are you doing? But eventually, he was like, fine, where are we getting the money this time?
Yeah.
And a little thing started to become very, very, very popular in households, known as the television set at this time. So Walt literally would put on TV shows and get paid in like investments for the amusement park. But 2 days before like they were to meet with somebody, Roy was like, how the hell am I going to convince these these TV production companies to like invest in this thing. I need something to like sell it. Yeah. Right? 2 days before, Roy was like, I'm going to need plans of Disneyland. And Walt Disney was like, okay. It was all in his head at the time.
Didn't even have a note on a napkin.
They mapped it out in 2 days.
Wow.
They were just like they had hired like an architect or something like that. They mapped it out in 2 days, just chain smoking together, eating sandwiches. They stayed by each other's sides for like 48 hours to get it done. But by golly, they got it done. And after several years of planning, the park opened July 17th of 1955. And it was, I mean, just dazzling. There was apparently all sorts of issues because of course there would be. Yeah. But apparently his daughter Diane was like, I've never seen him so happy.
Aww.
So I swear we are getting towards the end. It's the end of an era, but still just the beginning. So he was diagnosed with lung cancer in November of 1966.
Gotcha.
He died like a month later.
Wow. People
were like, okay, he's going to be fine. He's not fine. He literally was laying in his hospital bed, and the night he died was telling his brother about his ideas for Epcot.
Wow. That's so crazy. Also, if y'all want to learn more about Epcot, that Defunct Land YouTube channel has great episodes about Epcot.
Cool.
Just so you know.
We should go back, because I want to go back.
I haven't been since our high school trip.
I haven't either. It's been like 15 years.
Yeah.
13 years. Damn. Ah! That hurt. Damn. So, thankfully, because Walt was like such a workaholic, he actually had a lot, like years of plans already laid out for the company. So Roy, of course, just continued to run it because it's Roy. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of went off of what Walt was wanting to do. So Jungle Book in 67, Aristocats 70, and then they made The Love Bug in 1969. And then they made some educational films in 69 and kind of continued to work through that. So prior to his death, Walt Disney purchased land in Florida because he knew he wanted to expand Disneyland into the East Coast, and started working on Disney World because they had tons more room in Disney World. And that's why Disney World is much bigger than Disneyland, is because it's like Disneyland was almost like the prototype, and Disney World, they needed acres.
Yeah. And it's just swamp. So
yeah.
They have plenty of real estate.
On October 1st of 1971, Disney World opened. Roy unfortunately died in late 1971. I mean, he was almost 10 years older than Walt, so by the time he died, he was in his, like, 70s.
Wow.
And for the next, like, decade, the company was run by a team of people who had been specifically trained by the brothers to take over when they died. So we're looking at Card Walker, Don Tatum, and Ron Miller. And Ron Miller was actually married to one of Walt's daughters.
Oh, okay.
So they put Epcot in 1979. They started on it in 79. It completely opened in 1982. Tokyo Disneyland opened April 15th of 1983. And then it's so weird to think about this because it's Disney. Corporate raiders tried to take over Disney at one point.
What?
Like, apparently the perception of Disney stock was vastly undervalued to like the company's assets. So corporate raiders were like, "Can we buy your company?"
Wow.
And they were like,
No.
the fuck? I just thought that was hilarious. Like, nice try, I guess. So they eventually settled into like a new management, whoever was running
it's gone through a fair amount of people since then.
We're only going to talk about the like high points at this point because we don't want to be here forever. So in 1983 they launched the Disney Channel, and Disney wasn't really making like meeting competition for the feature films anymore, because the audience had kind of changed. And so they were like, fine, we'll change too. So in 1988, they had movies like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Good Morning Vietnam,
wow,
and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like, they were getting those style movies out there in the 80s. And like, those were amazing movies. And then we've got later years, which is our peak Disney in the 90s with Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid,
the
Aladdin, Lion King. I mean, yeah. So Disneyland Paris opened April 12th of 1992, and they've just skyrocketed from there. No one's worried, I think, anymore about it going under.
No.
I did want to do a little touch point on some kind of funny conspiracies that I kind of found.
Okay.
People think that Walt Disney is cryogenically frozen.
Yeah.
And then my brother, I talked to him today. Shout out Zach. If you want to hear his voice, go listen to the NASCAR episode. He said, did you know that some people think that they made the movie Frozen? So when people Google Disney Frozen, they'll stop talking about Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen.
Yeah, I've seen that too. And it's just silly.
Silly. Some say that Walt Disney left money in his will for the first man to ever get pregnant. So like, if a man ever got pregnant, Disney owes him money.
Well,
I don't even know.
I'm sure because gender's a construct. There are trans men out there who I know have gotten pregnant. So
yeah, I think there has been.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
I feel like we would have heard about that by now if Disney would paid them out.
Yeah. Right.
Some say that Disney World is protected by a giant dome. And that's why the weather's always good. But it's not always good.
It's Florida. I've been there when it has been raining.
Yeah. And apparently no one dies at Disneyland.
That's also not true.
Yeah. The myth says that the Disney staff will remove the bodies from Disney World and like take them out of the park before informing the authorities. That has been debunked. I just think it's so dumb. Like, what are they going to do? Just drag
a dead body? I'm sure they will try to get the person medical attention and probably like take them to a medical facility, but they're not going to drag a dead body out of the park. I feel like it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, especially if the deceased is with family.
Yeah.
What?
They do have a Disney jail, though. And secret underground passages for cast members.
I wonder if, like, Mickey Mouse comes down in the jail and is like, what you in here for?
You done messed up, bucko.
Now I've got to go get Donald Duck.
He about to fuck you up. Oh, man. I wish I could do the Donald Duck voice. My papa can do it.
Oh, Dad can do it.
And we would
so
beg
jealous.
him. I don't think it's very comfortable for him to do, but we would beg him
No.
anytime we all met together. We'd be like, please, please do the Donald Duck voice. And it was my favorite thing on earth.
I love when Dad does it. I'm going to have to figure out how to do it.
It's
the most I can do is make a very convincing pig noise with my throat, and I don't think that's very attractive, so...
It's like
fine.
something about like that at the back of your throat.
Yeah. I don't even want to try it because this is being recorded. I don't want to hear it later.
Well, you get to hear my weird noise I just made, so.
Yeah. No, not trying it. Not trying it. Not doing it. Okay. Last one.
That was me trying. Oh boy. No, I'm not doing it.
I just know if I try Truck Stop Betty's coming out of my mouth. So it's about all I got. I got a pig noise and a chain smoking cafe worker.
There you go.
Okay. So the last one is that Walt Disney was a Nazi sympathizer.
I've heard
Which is
that
interesting that he hated communists but was like apparently cool with Nazis.
I've heard that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But apparently there was a German filmmaker and her documentaries. Okay, remember in the like Olympic bonus episode when we were like, the Olympics of 1938 were like very heavily propagandaed.
Right.
She was one of those that made those propaganda films.
Okay.
And she visited the Disney studios, and he invited her into the studio, but refused any screen time or support or anything like that. So he was not a Nazi. He just apparently entertained one for a short day at the studio. And that was it.
Okay.
So, you know, if you want to see, I've got the Skeleton Dance Steamboat Willie, and Plain Crazy, linked in the show notes if y'all want to see that. And yeah, there's Walt's life.
Yeah.
And legacy.
And again, check out the Defunct Land YouTube channel. Again, they're not sponsored.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy it. And they go into a lot of detail about, like, not even just Disney World, a lot of different things. But Disney's brought up a lot because it was such a pioneer in, like, amusement parks. And everyone wanted to copy Disneyland. Everyone's like, I can do that too.
He revolutionized it. I mean, he took what an amusement park was, which was just like janky carnival, and turned it into the golden standard. Like, Universal Studios, when did Universal Studios open? In 1990.
Wow.
So 45 years later?
Yeah.
Crazy. Maybe 35. I'm not mathing right now.
No, I'm not either.
But like, you know, and I've been to both. It's been a long time, but I've been to both. Universal ain't got shit on Disney. It's fun though.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just not the same.
Disney. Disney's
Nothing's
unique.
Disney. Yeah.
Also, I did send you
Disney.
that Epcot video. It is like a whole last documentary, so just be prepared for that. But it's so interesting, and it goes into like Walt's plan for like the world of tomorrow, and like that was really a big thing about Epcot. That was the future city. That was the place of like where innovation would be done. You know, the future. The future. So.
Yeah, he was a visionary, and I think that's why a lot of people think he's like frozen.
It's like, how could someone like that just be dead, you know?
Yeah, it shouldn't be possible. And he was like a creative visionary his entire life, up until like the day he died. He was just
dreaming big.
not always doing it in the best way
No,
possible.
but he was a human being, and
person.
humans make mistakes.
Yeah. Do I think that, he was as villainized as maybe some people would think? Probably not. I think he was just a smidgen bit out of touch. That's just kind of what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm. He was such an idealist. He didn't really have both feet in reality all the time.
Yeah. He couldn't comprehend that his employees, who he thought truly he took care of, would do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the reality of it was he was not taking care of his employees as well as he thought he was.
Yeah.
So he just felt betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And also that Mintz guy was kind of a dick.
Yeah. And I'm sure that just like set up everything. He was like always on the lookout for who's going to betray him after that too.
Yeah. And then think of like who he was as a person, like who he was as a father. That's a whole different Walt.
Mm-hmm.
And probably who he was as a husband was a different Walt, and a brother. And I mean, yeah, we're all very complicated like that as well. But I feel like when you're in the spotlight, it's a little more extreme because the public makes you into who they think you are.
Yeah.
And then they're like shocked when they find out that you have like more layers.
Yeah, like, wow.
To who you are.
You are a dynamic person with good things and bad things about you, just like everyone.
You're not just Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Like, happy-go-lucky. And I mean, yeah, Mickey Mouse was his alter ego. Alter ego. Not, it's who he aspired to be, not
who he was.
Who he was. Exactly. And do I think Disney is in better financial hands now? Yeah. The man liked to spend money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely a lot more profitable now than they were in the 30s and 40s. Just casually raking in billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like every few months. It's fine.
It's fine. But like, I don't know. The thought of his blind faith in what he was doing is admirable.
Absolutely. I mean, the man followed his dreams.
And he made it a reality. I mean, how many times did his company just go whoop, 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 whoop?
Yeah. Whoop. I mean, Disney was in and out of bankruptcy even after his death, up until the Disney Renaissance, really.
Yeah. Crazy. And now they're just like, they can get away with like $300 a freaking ticket to get into, I don't even know how much it is now, but.
Expensive. Like after the pandemic, they're like, oh, we can like super raise our prices and people still pay them. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you could look up how much a Disney World ticket is now. The average price for a one-day ticket is about $160, according to the Google AI.
Oh my God. And then you have to pay for the overpriced food? Wow.
But they can increase in price depending on the time of year you go.
Wow. That's
and then if you want to get the park hopper to go in between the parks, that's an additional add-on. So apparently, again, according to the AI summary, in addition to park admission, you'll need to budget for airfare, a hotel, and food. A mouse hacking blog estimates that a baseline Disney World vacation for a family of 4 in 2024, probably like a week-long vacation, would cost $6,865.
I think I'll get new floors instead.
Yeah, there you go. Because I was thinking, we were like, let's go back to Disney World. Like, oh, that would be so fun to go with like the kids and stuff and getting like seeing them experience Disney World. And then I was like, wait.
If I'm taking these MFers to Disney World, they're going to be old enough to remember. They might be old enough to have jobs and take them
You're
on
paying
their
your
damn
own way
self.
to Disney World, kids.
Listen, you can bunk in our bed, but, like, you're going to have to pay that ticket. What the fuck?
That's funny.
Oh, but it looks so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember when we went and our legs hurt so bad?
We did so much walking.
So much walking. And I made us take pictures everywhere we went.
Which I still appreciate because they're all in my
You're
Facebook
welcome.
now. And I love looking back through all our old Disney pictures.
I might steal a few of them and post them.
That's totally fine. Take whatever ones you want.
Oh my God, I might do that because that would be so cute. See, super skinny Emileigh and Morgan in high school.
Seriously. You remember, like, when we were in high school and we're like, oh my God, like, I could lose, like, 20 more pounds.
If I had the legs that I had back then, I would be unstoppable.
I would be such an asshole.
You couldn't tell me shit if I had that body back. You couldn't. I'd be like, hell yeah, I look great. I told Lou today what my, I promise this is relevant. I told Lou today what my plans were for this week, and she's always calling me out on my shit like you are. I'm like, Emileigh, you're stretching yourself a little thin. And I went, haha, it's the only thing thin on me. And then I remembered I was checking out at Walmart and the dude was looking at me funny, and I was like,
were you on the phone with her?
Yeah.
So this man is just hearing a one-sided conversation, and then he just hears, well, that's the only thing that's thin on me. He has no idea. What, in reference to what?
And it's someone I see all the time because I always check out in the lawn and garden, so, like, I always get the same people.
He's like, what's the only thin thing on her? What is she talking about? Which body part?
Well, you know, my patience. Hey, what do you say? Like, sorry, my friend told me I was stretching myself too thin, so I made a joke instead of addressing it. Like,
that's how I cope with humor and deflection.
Apparently, that tracks for haunted houses and like mental health. Just laugh.
Oh boy.
I'm fucked, aren't I?
You know what? You're doing great, sweetie. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, Mom. Oh my God. Okay, we should get in the socials.
2 hours later, let's do our socials.
2 hours later. So if you like us, I mean, I guess you can just like our content. You don't have to like us, but whatever.
We hope you do.
Yeah, we try. So, you can find us on Facebook,
Ill-Equipped History Podcast Group and Page,
Instagram,
at Ill-Equipped History,
TikTok,
at Ill-Equipped History,
Gmail,
ill-equippedhistory at gmail.com,
and Patreon.
Patreon.com/ill-equippedhistory.
Only the one that gives us money.
Yeah. So please subscribe and you get access to our bonus episodes and stickers if you subscribe.
Stickers. Yeah.
So
and we hope that you subscribed in October because then you got a super fun special sticker. So
sorry, if you subscribe after October, tough luck.
Yeah.
No,
Too
they're
bad.
gone.
So sad.
You lost your chance.
I'm putting them all over something, all the extras, so nobody else can have them. Oh, and you even missed out on the doodle. But hey, if you sign up now, I'll still doodle you something for sure.
Yeah. She's good about that because you'll get our other 2 stickers that we have available.
Yeah. And I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here. if we ever come up with new stickers, we're just going to send you one of them too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You just get them.
Thanks. Yeah. If you just stay subscribed every time we make a new sticker, we're just going to send them.
Yeah.
Because we love you.
We love
and
you
you
so
get
much.
to hear. we love you.
You're our favorite.
Don't tell the others, but you're our favorite. Okay. Sometimes, this is my sign off. Sometimes there are moments that you should risk it all, and it pays off. And apparently Walt Disney knew when those sometimes were.
Yeah, seriously. So, get messy, take chances, make mistakes.
Yeah.
As Miss Frizzle would say.
And if you have a good thing going, don't fuck it up too bad.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good life lesson. Don't fuck up the good things.
And by saying that, I mean, if you have good chemistry in one area, when you move to the next area, try to keep the chemistry.
Yeah, don't fix what ain't broke.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
That was very synchronized.